with Republicans successfully taking back the House of Representatives after what was actually a fairly disappointing but not completely terrible for them midterm result. They have announced the focus of new investigations. Yes. Now, the question of January 6th, of which the House Select Committee, under this current House of Representatives, the term ending very soon, showed a ton of evidence against former President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is now seeking a third Republican nomination. Much to the chagrin of Republican leadership, because, that whole trying to overthrow the election thing, which is kind of embarrassing, but also super fascist. That said, when faced with the question of what about continuing that committee and those investigations, especially with Republican support, because remember, Republicans were pretty mad that they weren't on these committees, that they weren't on the House Select Committee, except that, Liz Cheney literally was, but she's pretty much the only Republican that was on the House Select Committee, because no other Republican was interested in actually getting onto that committee, even though they could have at any time. They were welcome to. Well, that said, what about that committee? What about that investigation? I mean, look, the Republican Party is turning on Donald Trump. So why wouldn't they continue and finally drive the final nail into the Trump coffin to, get him out of the way? Well, here's what
the January 6th insurrectionists.
Here's where the Republicans are actually going to go with that investigation.
Do you think the January 6th insurrectionists have been wrongly imprisoned?
I didn't say anything. All I said is we're going to look at the politics at the Justice Department based on the fact that we have had 14 different, actually more than 14 now, whistleblowers come talk to us. That's what we're going to focus on.
And my last question is, what are the grounds
If we can keep it about Hunter Biden, this is kind of a big deal, we think. If we can keep it about Hunter Biden, that would be great.
Go.
I just wanted to
piggyback, because she said for January 6th, just what you plan to do with the January 6th investigation. It seems like
I think that's a question. I think that's a question for Kevin McCarthy. That we're focused on a lot of investigations now. I've been very transparent with the media on it. That wasn't one of them, but
no. Oh, please stop asking us about the attempted, fascist takeover of our country on January 6th. That most Republicans actually supported. We want to focus on the real issues. The real issues, like Hunter Biden. What? Look, Hunter Biden isn't a politician. Hunter Biden never served in government. He's never in the White House, and that's a good thing because he's got some serious issues. That said, is there evidence that President Joe Biden, used his power as president or vice president to financially enrich his son or protect him from investigations into him? No, not that we know. Is there evidence that Joe Biden had financially benefited from Hunter Biden's, connections, working at Burisma and all that? No. In fact, it would seem to be quite the opposite, where you had Joe Biden actually helping Hunter Biden out, but when he gets in trouble, by sending him encouraging words and saying, well, basically being a good father. That's what I've seen. That said, look, Hunter Biden gets in trouble a lot, as noted by Frank Figliuzzi, the FBI's former assistant director for counterintelligence. There could be a national security risk when foreign powers like China could see an opportunity to get someone close to someone like Hunter Biden. He said, quote, "It's all about access and influence. If you can compromise someone with both access and influence, well, that's even better. Better still if that target has already compromised himself." That said, is there evidence that Joe Biden has been compromised? No. In fact, look, in documents and analysis found that Hunter Biden, when he had his, $11 million for his work at Burisma, actually burned right through it. He wasn't helping out Joe Biden with his election or wasn't helping out anything like that. No. In fact, what he was doing is living the high life, but in a low way. Look, again, he had a drug problem. He'd also rented luxury hotel rooms, bought cars, got dental work, and unfortunately, was routinely stolen from by his so-called friends. As a result, he burned through that money real fast, struggled to pay his mortgage, struggled to pay his alimony, his child support, his back taxes. The guy's a mess. He's not winning. But understand that that's what addiction does to people. And I'm really sad to see, it's pretty sad to see this play out on a national stage as part of a political hit against his father. It doesn't have anything to do with his father. It has everything to do with him and, yes, potential crimes that he has done, like not paying his taxes. And look, as far as anything that connects Joe Biden to Hunter Biden that could be considered criminal, well, Republicans already looked into this. Republicans in the Senate Finance and Homeland Security Committees, then chaired by Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, had issued a first report on Biden's business dealings back in September of 2020. The 87-page report said that Biden had cashed in on his name, which, again, is not surprising. But Johnson said in his interview before the release that the report contained, quote, no massive smoking guns. So wait, if you're going to make this entire investigation about a son of a politician or the child of a politician cashing in on that politician's name, well, you're going to have to look into everybody. I mean, I got plenty of people we could look into. Meghan McCain being one. My father, 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 my father. What about literally the entire Trump family? Just a couple of examples. There's more. But again, you see now where the Republican Party is focused on, right? I mean, look, they're going to sweep Donald Trump's efforts to end our system of government under the rug. As if, it's nothing to try to overthrow our system of government. And they're going to focus on going after private citizens. That's who Hunter Biden is. Again, he's not a public figure. He's not a politician. He's a private citizen. Yes, he's gotten himself into legal trouble, but it doesn't have anything to do with the administration. So it's if anything, this is just, oh my, wow, look at how much of a mess Hunter Biden's life is. Oh wow, let's use him to attack his dad. You want to talk about political witch hunt? You want to talk about dirty politics? That's what it is. It's also a desperation to, a desperate attempt to ignore the Trump family, who, again, you could look at Ivanka Trump, who got special deals while, her father was president of the United States, getting to sit in meetings with President Xi in order to then make special deals for her company in China so she could pocket the money. Jared Kushner trying to use his position as advisor in the White House and his foreign policy trips to try to put money into his own pocket, to have other countries come and bail out his horrible investment in New York City. Come on. They're going to ignore all of that stuff because, well, it's okay if a Republican does it. Now, one last thing, too, by the way. If Hunter Biden is indicted, because remember, he's under a federal investigation for his taxes. I mean, the guy did avoid taxes for years on end. Now, of course, as a spokesperson says, well, we paid back those back taxes. Okay, but you still avoided taxes. That's still something that you shouldn't do. And look, if there's an indictment over some of that financial stuff, well, that would pretty much prove the case that the Biden administration wasn't actually trying to interfere at all in these investigations and cases against him. So there wouldn't be anything that the Republicans could tie back to Joe Biden because Joe Biden and the Justice Department literally did nothing to shield Hunter Biden, which is, again, the entire point that Republicans are trying to do is to tie those two things together and saying, see, we got the Democrats We got Joe Biden is using the government to protect his kids. That's obvious crime. We should impeach him. Well, obviously, I don't really see the Justice Department. I don't really see Merrick Garland defending Hunter Biden or stopping any of these investigations from going on. Look, Republicans cannot say the same when it comes to Trump and his family and Donald Trump's, efforts to try to not only put federal money into his own pocket and into the pockets of his family, but also to use his power to launch investigations and to launch attacks against his political enemies. That's the thing that the Republicans are trying to cover up and to ignore and to hope just goes away.